Alex Garland's latest film, Civil War, ends with multiple deaths. The film, set in the future of the U.S., where a civil war has broken out and the states have been split into various factions, including the Western forces, which are fighting against the loyalist states with plans to kill the president. Starring Kirsten Dunst as Lee, Civil War finds the war photographer and what's left of her team after Sammy's death, Joel and newbie photojournalist Jesse, heading to the heart of Washington, D.C. alongside the Western forces, who have seized the White House with the president inside. With all the shooting and hiding for safety, Lee's walls begin collapsing, as the weight of Sammy's death and all that she's seen threatens to pull her under. Once the Western forces breach the White House, Lee, Joel and Jesse follow along. The Secret Service and the Western forces exchange gunfire, and Jesse rolls into the hallway to get a good shot. Lee jumps in front of her to save her from the bullets. Shortly after, the president is captured, and Joel asks him for his final words before he's killed, with Jesse taking a photo of his final moments. Lee and the U.S. president die at the end of Civil War. Lee sacrifices herself to save Jesse. Kirsten Dunst's Lee holds her camera ready to shoot in Civil War. While Lee is adamant about protecting Jesse from the horrors she's been so jaded by for the entirety of Civil War, the film culminates with Lee sacrificing herself to save Jesse from being shot by the Secret Service. Jesse photographs Lee's death, suggesting her apparent disconnect between a war photographer and her subject. This is Jesse at the start of her photography career, whereas Lee deletes the photo of Sammy's dead body from her camera at the end of hers. Lee losing her mentor changed her, and the war zone near the White House put everything into focus. Lee stepped in to save Jesse because she was all out of steam. She had given her all for years, and losing Sammy was witnessing the true consequences of the job. Lee jumped in front of Jesse to ensure the new war photographer would live on to witness the Western forces taking down the president. Lee was still jaded, but she recognized the importance of the work. She also didn't want to witness Jesse's death when she was still so young. Nick Offerman's U.S. president, meanwhile, is killed by a few soldiers serving the Western forces. His final words are along the lines of, "Don't kill me, please," which Joel confirms is good enough for an exclusive before he's shot, ending his 3-term presidency, though it's unclear if the president's death also means the end of the Civil War. Though Lee didn't live to see the president fall, she'd at least accomplished her goal of getting to Washington, D.C., and being the first team to get a quote from the president. Why the Western forces killed the president. The president became a tyrant who betrayed American citizens. Nick Offerman as the president in Civil War. He is wearing a suit and standing at the presidential podium. The main objective of the Western forces throughout Civil War was to end the reign of the tyrannical president, played by Offerman, who disavowed the United States Constitution by holding onto his executive power for a third 4-year term. By refusing to abide by the Constitution, the president had set a dangerous precedent that is essentially un-American, which has caused a national outcry to the point of secession and the forming of militias. If there is one person to blame for the start of the Civil War in Garland's cautionary film, it's unquestionably Offerman's president. His death at the end of the movie is crucial because he represents the source of the entire conflict and ultimately its end. Civil War's final shot explained. Jesse will become a national hero. Civil War -7. The final shot of Civil War is quite literally a camera shot through the lens of Jesse's camera. It shows Mora's character Joel standing over the dead body of Offerman's president with a few of the Western forces who neutralized the target. In that moment, Jesse takes the most significant photo in the history of the United States and will inevitably become a national hero. Dunst's Lee, who was killed in the line of fire trying to protect Jesse, likely would have taken the photograph if she were still alive. In this way, Jesse ultimately fills in Lee's shoes as the Civil War comes to an end. What Alex Garland has said about Civil War's final shot. Alex Garland spoke on the intention behind the final shot of Civil War. The photo comes at a personal cost, and not just her personal cost, but to people around her. But that's part of the transactional deal that sometimes people have to make to do that thing. In 20 years' time, what would be the image that survived this? If there was a news article that was illustrative of that moment, what would that image be? That is the image she takes. The final shot of Civil War would theoretically be printed in every newspapers, magazine, and textbook in the country, and likely the world, marking a new beginning for the U.S. What's next for the U.S. after the Western forces' successful operation? With the president dead, the U.S. future is in question. Joel watches a military vehicle leave in Civil War movie image via A24. With the president fallen, the Western forces' goal has been accomplished. That leaves their future unknown by the end of Alex Garland's film. The Western forces, led by the seceded states of California and Texas, have historically been on different sides of the political spectrum. They had a shared goal during Civil War, eradicate the fascist president. Now that their plans have come to fruition, the future of the US is up in the air. It's possible the Western forces will rejoin the greater US and reunite the country. It could also be that California and Texas will go back to being on different sides politically, though that may take much longer considering the way the country has been divided in the Civil War. What's more, with the president's death, the US future is called into question. It's likely that a leader with the Western forces will emerge, and that could create an entirely new conflict. Regardless of how things shake out, the outcome of the Western forces operation positions them as a powerful party, one that could shape the rest of the factions and the US future.